All right. So let's dive into something I know is probably on a lot of your minds too.
Yeah.
This whole like back to the office thing, or not back to the
The
office.
future of work.
Yeah, exactly. Like what is going on with all this? And you sent me over a bunch of like surveys and studies that have come out pretty recently,
Hmm.
and it seems like everybody's got a pretty strong opinion. Either way. And I think the interesting thing that I saw is like this real tension
Yeah,
between, what employees want and what employers want.
totally. And it is interesting because you hear so much about return to office,
Yeah.
but the data is really different. Like occupancy is only at like 50%,
Oh, wow.
pre-pandemic levels.
That's wild.
Yeah, so that's a big disconnect right there.
Totally. Yeah.
So let's kind of dig into that.
Yeah. Let's get to the bottom of this. And this Owl Labs survey, state of hybrid work that you sent over.
Yes.
Really interesting. They say that only 18% of employees actually want to go back full time,
Wow.
which is like nothing.
Yeah.
So it seems like everybody's leaning towards hybrid right now.
It does seem that way, and I think it plays into this larger trend we've been seeing
Okay.
of employees pushing back a little. We hear these terms like quiet quitting, and there's definitely been increased attrition
Right.
at organizations that are mandating these full returns. And I think that's all stemming from the fact that people got a taste of this flexibility and autonomy,
Yeah, I totally get that.
and they don't want to give it up.
And so if we're saying, okay, hybrid's kind of the way to go, then what does hybrid even look like? Like, what's the sweet spot for most people?
Yeah, well, this same Owl Lab study found that people are really into like a 2 to 3 day split.
Okay,
Some people want it in the office, some want it at home.
got it.
But the key is choice, it seems like. But here's what's interesting. 33% of those surveyed said they would look for a new job
What?
if they were forced back full time.
A third of people.
A third.
That's wild. I mean, in this job market, can companies even afford to do that?
It's a tough market for employers right now, and it feels like the power has really shifted
Yeah.
towards employees for sure. And I think companies are realizing that if they want to attract and keep good talent,
Yeah.
they have to change things up. They can't just dictate anymore.
Right. And I think employees wanting that flexibility makes total sense.
Yep.
But then you sent over also this KPMG survey
Yes.
of CEOs, and it seems like they're kind of coming from a different perspective.
Yeah, they are. It turns out that most CEOs actually want people back in the office full time
Really?
within the next 3 years.
Wow.
So yeah, and this really, I think, brings to light this trust gap
Ooh, the trust gap.
that seems to have emerged between employers and employees.
Tell me more about this.
Well, think about it. The pandemic threw everyone for a loop,
Right.
you know?
Totally.
And suddenly companies had to figure out how to measure productivity differently, and employees had to figure out their work-life balance
Yeah.
in a completely new way. And now you add this remote work debate on top of that, and it's just like,
Adding fuel to the fire.
totally.
So it's like employees are like, hey, I just proved I can be productive
From anywhere.
anywhere. Why don't you trust me? And then employers are like, wait a second. How do we even know people are working if we can't see them?
Exactly. And it's not even just about where work gets done. It's also like how we communicate, what expectations are set, and even how success is measured.
Right.
It's a big one.
Yeah. So then what are companies doing? I mean, if they're trying to bridge this gap, like how are they enticing people to come back?
Well, both the Owl Labs and the KPMG survey actually talked about some of these tactics.
Okay.
They're doing things like free food subsidized commuting costs.
Okay.
Relaxed dress codes. Some are even offering like faster promotions.
Wow. They're really pulling out all the stops, huh?
It seems that way, but that brings up the question, is it enough?
Right.
Like, are these perks actually going to overcome these deeper issues?
Yeah. Isn't that simple?
Right. And this is where I think that Envoy study you said
Okay.
comes in, because it seems like a lot of managers are saying they may not have fully understood their employees' needs during the pandemic. So there seems to be this disconnect.
So they're trying to solve a problem they don't understand.
Maybe a little bit. Yeah.
Ah, that's interesting.
Yeah. And it gets even more complicated when you look at what's happening in big tech.
Yeah.
Because you've got companies like Apple, Google Meta,
Mm-hmm.
even Zoom.
Oh, wow. Even Zoom.
Yeah, they're all pushing for this minimum of 3 days in the office.
It's almost ironic.
It is a little bit, yeah. So what is it about these tech companies?
Yeah.
Why are they pushing so hard? Is it all about control? Well, there's definitely some of that.
Sure.
But remember that WFH research data we talked about?
Yeah.
There's consistently low office occupancy.
Right.
And these companies have spent a lot of money on these giant office spaces.
Of course.
So they're feeling the pinch of all that unused space.
So it's like control and money.
A little bit of both.
Yeah. But I feel like we're missing something if we just stop there.
Yeah, I think you're right. It's bigger than that.
like there's a deeper issue here, right?
Yeah, I think so.
And it's not even just about the location. It's like about trust and understanding like what people actually want.
Exactly. And one of the sources you shared said it really well that some employees feel patronized by these return to office mandates.
Yeah.
It's like you're saying, we don't trust you to do your job unless we see you at a desk.
Right.
Which, I mean, that's gotta hurt.
Yeah, not very motivating.
Right.
Yeah. So it seems like this is not a simple situation.
Not at all.
There's like valid points on both sides.
Totally.
And it's definitely not one size fits all.
Yeah, I think what this whole debate has really shown us is that we need to think differently about work and productivity.
Yeah.
And what an office even means now, you know? Like, it's challenging these traditional models, and it's forcing us to figure out what really matters.
Yeah.
That's for the employees and for the employers.
It's like a whole new world out there.
It really is. And, you know, we should acknowledge, too, that it's not like everyone thinks working from anywhere is like the perfect solution.
Right.
There are definitely companies out there that are like, wait a second.
Yeah.
This isn't really working the way we thought it would. You know, there are things that are harder to do remotely.
Like what?
Like, think about brainstorming, you know, when you're all in a room together.
Right.
And ideas are just flowing back and forth.
Yeah.
That can be hard to replicate virtually.
Totally.
Or even like building those relationships.
Yeah.
Like the rapport that makes a team really click.
Oh, for sure.
That's definitely trickier when you're not face to face.
And even onboarding new people.
Oh,
I feel like that's so much harder
it's tough
to do remotely.
Yeah, and so it's like we're still figuring out the best practices for all of that. It's like a learning curve. Totally, we're all figuring it out as we go.
Yeah.
And I think that's what's so interesting about this whole conversation. It's like, it's really surfaced these fundamental questions about how we think about work, about how we measure productivity, and what the office even means anymore.
Right.
You know, it's making us rethink these old model
Totally.
and figure out what truly matters for both sides.
Both for the employees and the employers.
Right.
So it's like, okay, if companies really want people back,
Yeah.
it sounds like they have to offer more than just free snacks and casual Friday.
It's got to be more than perks.
Yeah, it's got to be like a deeper...
It's got to be about creating a work environment that truly adds value
Right.
and makes people feel heard. You know, think about flexible schedules,
Okay, yeah.
collaborative spaces that are actually designed for how we work now,
Yeah,
real opportunities for professional development.
all right, that's a good one.
It's about fostering that trust and autonomy,
Yeah.
not just telling people where to sit.
And I think one thing that keeps coming up in all this research
Yeah.
is flexibility.
Yeah.
And not just about location, but just like finding solutions that work for different people.
Different teams.
Different teams.
Recognizing that we all have different needs.
Yeah, we don't all work the same way.
Not at all.
Yeah, and I feel like even the office itself like needs a makeover.
Yeah.
You know, if companies want people back,
For sure.
they got to create spaces that offer something that you can't get at home.
Exactly. Like, think about collaborative hubs for brainstorming.
Oh, yeah.
Spaces that are actually designed to spark those connections.
I like
Places that make people want to be there.
Okay, so like where do we go from here?
Yeah.
What does the future of work even look like?
The $1 million question.
Is it all remote? Is it all office? Is it somewhere in between?
That is the question. And honestly, I don't think anyone has the answer yet.
Right.
It's probably going to look different in every industry and every organization.
Yeah.
But I think one thing's for sure, we're moving away from this either or mindset.
Okay.
You know, it's not remote versus office. It's about finding a more nuanced approach.
So it's not picking a side.
Exactly.
It's like finding the right blend.
It's about that balance, you know, flexibility and structure, autonomy and collaboration.
It's a dance.
It is. And being open to the fact that that balance might need to shift.
Right? Like what works now might not work a year from now.
Exactly.
So it's not about like finding the one right answer.
No.
It's about having these conversations
Ongoing conversations, yeah.
about what works for everyone.
For sure. And I think the biggest thing to remember here is this is not just about business.
Right.
This is about people's lives, you know?
Yeah.
It's about well-being. It's about purpose.
Yeah.
It's about people's ability to thrive.
Not just at work, but in their whole lives.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's easy to get lost in all the, you know, like numbers and the economic side of things.
Right.
But ultimately, it's like, are we creating workplaces where people can actually thrive?
Exactly. Thrive, not just survive.
Yeah. And I mean, that probably looks different for everybody.
It does. You know, some people love that flexibility of working from home.
Yeah.
Other people, they really miss that in-person connection.
That energy.
Yeah.
Yeah, totally. I think this deep dive has given us a lot to think
A
about.
lot to unpack, yeah.
Definitely complex.
For sure.
No easy answers.
But for everyone listening, something I want you to consider.
Okay?
What would your ideal work situation actually look like?
Yeah.
Like, really picture it. What would make you feel valued and engaged and excited to show up every day?
Yeah.
And I think even more important than that, how can you help create that kind of culture
Oh, I like that.
at your own workplace?
It's not just a top-down thing.
No.
It's like we can all contribute to this.
Totally. And I mean, we spend so much of our lives working.
Right. Might as well make it good.
Right. It's worth figuring out how to make that time as meaningful as possible.
Absolutely. Well, this has been awesome.
Yeah, this was a good one.
Really fascinating stuff.
Yeah.
I think it's something that everyone's grappling with right now.
For sure, the future of work is still being written.
And it sounds like we all have a part in that.
Yeah.
So thanks for joining us on this deep dive. And until next time, keep learning, keep questioning, and keep pushing for a better future of work for all of us, for all of us.